Hi, it's Ben here, and today I'm going to be showing you how to build up your gymnast to do a straddle lever and a half lever, and the exercises that we're going to use to build the strength for the gymnasts. So the first thing we're going to do is build up the gymnast's quad and hip flexor strength and try and get the gymnast understanding the movement we're going to require from them when doing a straddle lever and a half lever. So what we're going to do is get the gymnast to sit down in a straddle shape. You're going to make sure that their legs are around an arm width apart, and we normally do a couple of fingers if you want to make sure that they're wide enough in the correct position for their straddle lever. If their legs are too wide, this is going to cause further problems, and if they're too close, it's also going to cause a problem. So a good way for us to do it is to put their arm across and then to try and use either 2 to 4 fingers, and this will be a good width, which is usually around their shoulder width apart. So on this one, what we're going to do first is place their hands on one side of their leg, and they're going to put both hands next to their knee. So in this position, he wants to try and have a flatter back. He's going to place his hands flat on the floor, and then he's going to try and lift his leg up off the floor. And we're going to try and see if we can do 5 repetitions of this, keeping his leg completely straight and his body in a good position. Now, if this is too easy for the gymnasts, you can get them to place their hands towards their ankle. So this is going to close the distance between their hips and their shoulders and make it harder for the gymnast to lift this up. If it's too hard for the gymnast, you can place their hands backwards so they come more towards their hip and they sit in more of an upright position as they're doing these movements. So once they've done this on a single leg position, we can start getting the gymnast to work on doing this with both legs. So they do this on both legs singly first. Once the gymnast understands how to do this, we're then going to place their hands in the middle. So they'll do this a little bit like a Japana, or like they're going to do their straddle lever. And the same thing applies. They're going to put their hands in the middle, roughly in line with their knees, and they're going to have their back flat, with their hands flat, and they're going to try and lift their legs up, keeping their position nice as we're doing this exercise. So if this is too hard for the gymnasts, they can again bring their hands closer to them. If it's too easy, they can bring their hands forwards, so they're getting closer towards a Japana as they're doing this position. So this is going to put more stress and more weight on their quads, their hip flexors, and also their abs. So a common mistake that the gymnasts will do when doing their straddle leg lifts is letting their feet roll in. So Luke is going to show you what this will look like. So when they do their leg lifts, their feet will be turned in, and this isn't going to engage the correct muscles. So what you need to make sure is the gymnasts turn their feet outwards and they can see the inside of their feet here. Now, a good way to do this for the gymnasts that are younger is you can draw a smiley face on their foot there, and they have to be able to see their smiley face when they're doing their exercise. If their feet are rolled inwards, they're not going to be able to see this, and then it's a good way, or a sticker, for the gymnast to understand they haven't got correct technique. So as well as getting the gymnasts to do it in straddle, we also get the gymnasts to do this in pike. The straddle is going to help them more with their straddle levers, and then the pike is going to get them better towards their half levers. It's a good idea though to get them to practice both to build strength all around the legs. So as you can see now, Luca is sitting in the pike position, and the same things apply. So if he presses his hands further forwards, this is going to make it harder. If he brings his hands backwards, it's going to make it easier. A good starting point is always roughly at the knees. His hands should be flat, his back should be flat, and he's going to try and lift his legs up in this position. As you can see, his legs are straight, his feet are together, and he's maintaining good form throughout the exercise. So this is going to help as we start to progress into things like Russian levers and manners as well as being able to do things like leg lifts as well if the gymnast is struggling. As well as doing this on 2 legs, you can do this on 1 leg as well. So like we did before, I would suggest doing 1 leg, then the other leg, and then both. I suggest doing between 5 to 10 repetitions of this exercise. As this gets easier, they can move their hands further forwards. It's a great exercise to include at the beginning of their session as part of their core conditioning or their warm-up. But now that we've built the gymnast's strength up in their quads, their hip flexors, in their abs, we're going to start working on teaching the gymnasts to build strength in their arms, their back, and their shoulders ready to start lifting themselves into a half lever or a straddle lever. So we're going to start off by showing you the straddle lever exercises and then move on to the half lever exercises afterwards. So what we tend to do with the gymnast next is to get them to sit on a raised platform. So we're using a beam today. You might have something different at your gym that you can use. With the gymnast, you're going to get them sat down, hands on the beam, in a straddle position, and all they're going to do is keep their feet on the floor and practice lifting their hips up, leaning forwards, and just pushing down in this position, and then coming back down. So what we would tend to do with the gymnasts is get the gymnasts to do between 5 to 10 repetitions, holding each repetition for 2 seconds at the top. If they can do this, they're ready to move on to the next exercise. The gymnast now has performed this on a higher surface. What you do next is start to get them to drop the level until they reach the floor. So Luca's going to demonstrate this now on the floor. So it'll look exactly the same. They start in their straddle position and they're going to lift their hips off the floor, leaning forwards, and just start getting used to pushing down on the floor and engaging their core. Once the gymnast can perform this on the floor and they're comfortable getting into the correct position, engaging their core and their arms, and they're being able to hold it with control, what I would do next is bring the gymnast with their feet slightly higher now. So they're starting to get used to doing the straddle lever position with their feet on something. So what we're going to do is get Luca to sit down with his bottom lower, his feet on top of something higher, put his hands on the floor, and then try and lift into the straddle lever position. Hold. You can get the gymnast to hold this between 2 to 5 seconds and then slowly lower himself back down again. Now what we're trying to do is get the gymnast to do a few repetitions of this so they start understanding how to get their shoulders forwards and take balance on their hands ready to do a straddle lever. Once the gymnast has performed these in straddle, you can also get them to repeat the same process but using half lever, so piked. And we're going to start with something higher, move onto the floor, and then lift their feet on something raised. So we're going to show you these exercises now. So these exercises are not only just going to help the gymnast build up strength in their arms, their core, their legs, ready to do their half lever and straddle lever, but it's starting to teach gymnasts good habits for pressing up to a handstand from a half lever or a straddle lever. So you're managing to get the gymnasts here to practice doing the correct positions and getting used to being in these tight folded positions, which are going to really help the gymnast when it comes down to doing their lift to handstands. So an exercise that I find really useful to get the gymnast to do is a shrug on the P-bars. So this is going to help the gymnasts understand that they need to press down into the floor and understand the difference when it comes down to actually pushing down on the floor and to sinking down on the floor as well. So they start getting used to building strength in the correct positions, ready for their lift to handstands, their half levers and straddle levers. So we're going to demonstrate to you what this looks like now and some progressions that you can use if the gymnast struggles to understand how to shrug. The first progression here is in straddle. You get the gymnast just to focus on lowering their shoulders so they've got no neck, and then pushing it back up again so they do have a neck. So this is a great way for the gymnast to start understanding how to do the movement before they actually go and have a go in support. Perfect. So once you know that the gymnast can do this and they can already hold a good support shape on the P-bars, which should look like this, we're now going to get the gymnast to start performing their shrugs in this position. So he's going to shrug down and back up again. So as you can see, it's completely controlled. The body position's staying the same, just nice and straight, and he's pushing himself up and down and getting used to engaging his muscles, ready for later down the line when we're doing our half levers, our straddle levers, our lift to handstands, and other positions. So the way that we're going to progress doing the shrugs on the P-bars is to start getting the gymnast to sit down on the edge of a higher block. You can use a bench, a beam, or a block. In this case today, we're going to be using a block. So what we're going to do is get the gymnast to sit down on the edge of the block with bent legs, hands over the edge, facing forwards. So what we're going to do is get the gymnast to lift into a tucked lever from this position, so it's nice and safe if they fall. They're now starting to get a feeling for doing the levers, engaging their abs, engaging their quads, their hip flexors, their arms, getting ready to do a nice lever position. So with the gymnasts, like before, I would get them to do between 5 to 10 reps and hold this each time between 2 to 5 seconds. So once they can do this in this position, it's time to start making it harder. So if they can manage to do 10 repetitions and hold this for 3 to 5 seconds, they're ready to start making the exercise harder. And if they can't, then it's time to keep doing the position until they can achieve this. So Luca's going to demonstrate a couple of reps for you now. So once the gymnast is strong enough in this position, we're now going to move them on to putting one leg out in this position. So I would suggest getting the gymnast to do this on both legs, switching between sides once they've done a few reps. So if they're going to do 5 reps, they'll do 5 reps on one side, and then the next time they'll do 5 reps on the other side. So Luca's going to demonstrate this now. So he's going to place one leg out, and he's going to do exactly the same thing, but he's going to lift with one leg bent and one leg straight. So once you've gone through these exercises, your gymnast should now be prepared to do a perfect straddle lever and a half lever. So what we're going to do now is with Luca show you exactly the form that your gymnast should be trying to achieve. So we're going to show you the straddle lever first. So he's going to be looking forwards, he's going to have his legs raised, his legs off his arms, and as you can see there, he's in a very nice straddle position. If he's on the floor, his feet could lift a little bit higher. And as you can see here, on all of this position, he's really pushing down on his arms. He has got a rounded back, and he's in a perfect straddle lever position, ready to lift into handstand. So with the half lever, this is what it's going to start to look like when he first does this. So he's going to press up into the half lever. His feet will start to be lower than the P-bars or the parallettes as he starts to do this. Once he gets stronger, they're going to lift up then to they're above the P-bars, and he's in this closed position. If you rest for a second. So when we do a perfect half lever, however, you want the hips to be pressed forwards in front of the hands and have their hips slightly open, so he would be in this position, which is also going to start building strength up to do things like Russians and manners as we progress. So as we have a look now, so he's going to do his normal half lever, and as you can see here, he's opened his chest, his hips are here, and he's now managing to do a perfect open half lever. So we're going to show you the difference of this now. He'll do a couple of reps going in and out from a perfect half lever into the closed half lever, showing you the difference of this position. So I hope these exercises have helped you understand how to break down a half lever and a straddle lever for your gymnasts, and the steps and stages and the phases that your gymnasts will go through when learning this. The thing to bear in mind is every stage you should progress progressively so that the gymnast can start to achieve his skill and always be working towards the next progression. They're not just going to come in the gym and be able to do a perfect straddle lever on day one. This is a strength skill, and it will take a few weeks of building up strength, or even a few months in some people's cases, to understand this movement.